Hare Krishna, all the devotees, a very warm welcome to our Nectar of Devotion classes. Now we are studying chapter number 1 of this very nice book. The title of this chapter is Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. And today is our 4th class. Request the devotees to kindly mute. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. I think everyone is muted now. Yeah. So, as usual, we will start our program with Mangalacharan prayers, and today's prayers will be by Jeevan Radha Prabhu. Prabhuji? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Sakshururmilatam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sakrajatam Saha Gana Yagunathanvitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakathanvitansya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhibhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Jeevan Prabhuji. Very nicely recited the Mangalacharan prayers. Thanks a lot. And now we will come to the next part of our class, which is the summary of our previous class, class number 3. And we have this service to be done by our Manish Prabhu from Singapore. Manish ji, please Prabhuji, can you help us take through the summary and recap of previous class?
Yes, Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Yes, so we are discussing the recap of the summary. The topic is again the characteristics of the devotional service from Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 1. Yeah. So we understood the definition of Uttama Bhakti from Narada Pancharatha, Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam. So that is Bhakti is devoid of all upadhis. And then we also understood the definition from Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is Hetuke Avyavahita. So Bhakti is without cause, it is without any hetu, without any purpose. And Bhakti is not contaminated by jnana or karma. So it is a very, very pure Bhakti. Next, Prabhuji, next, yes. Then we went for the 5 types of liberation, which we understood. Salokya, same loka as Lord Vaikuntha. Sarshti, same opulence as Lord. Sarupaya, same form of Lord, same form as Lord. Samipya, becoming direct associate of the Lord. And Ekatvam, oneness with the Lord. So these were the 5 types of liberation which we understood from the last class. Next, yeah. And then we also understood that pure devotee does not accept any liberation, but always want to serve the Lord. Yeah. So this is what is typically a pure devotee will try to do, always prefer service to the Lord. Then we understood what are the 6 qualities of pure bhakti. So we only studied one. Prabhuji, some sound at the background.
Okay, let me mute my microphone. Give me a minute.
Sorry. Yes. So we were at the 6 qualities of pure bhakti, which we are studying in this chapter. And I think we covered only Kleshagni. So we have to cover the Shubhada, Moksha Laghukrita, Sudurlabha, Sandrananda, Vishwatma, and Sri Krishna Akarshani. So these are the 6 qualities out of which one we have covered. And I think Prabhuji will now cover the next 5 bhaktis in the coming classes. So what is Kleshagni? Yes, bhakti destroys a klesha. So once we are in a pure bhakti, all our suffering will get destroyed. That is what is called as Kleshagni. Yeah? And this klesha has a threefold. What are the three folds? One is the papam, papa bijam, and avidya. So papam is nothing but the sinful reaction. Papa bijam is a seed of the sin. And that is what typically the material desire which we all have. And then the avidya. Avidya is nothing but the ignorance. Yeah. So this is where our klesh starts, and that is what clearly described in this ABC, papam, papa bijam, and avidya. Now, moving further, papam is further divided into aprarabdha and prarabdha. So what is this aprarabdha? Aprarabdha is nothing but the karma which is not yet matured, and we have to experience this in our next life. So a typical example which is given in this is a man who has committed the crime but not yet arrested, or he will get arrested after some time, but the crime has already been done. And what is prarabdha? Prarabdha is nothing but the crime, or the things or the sin is already matured. It is already done. And now we have to experience that we are experiencing that in the present life. And the good example is like we are suffering from some chronic disease, or we have already born in a low birth. Yeah. So this is what we are experiencing in the present life. So aprarabdha and prarabdha. Yeah. And then we clearly understood from the bhakti that bhakti destroys both aprarabdha and prarabdha karma. So once we are in a pure devotional service, or our klesha, or all this aprarabdha and prarabdha, all these karmas, this all will be destroyed. Bhakti destroys both. And a very good example has been stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, that even a person born in a family of dog eater immediately becomes eligible to form Vedic sacrifices if he utters the holy name of the Lord. Yeah, even if he starts chanting Hare Krishna, even if he is born in a lower birth or in a dog eater's family, he still becomes eligible to form Vedic. He becomes eligible to perform all the ritualistic or the Vedic sacrifices. And another thing, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, also clearly mentioned that Lord Krishna devotional service fixed on the Lord purifies even the dog eaters from the contaminations of their low birth. So these are the two good references, two good examples which are stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, how bhakti destroys both the prarabdha and prarabdha. And then bhakti also destroys 4 types of papam. Yeah, so the 4 types of papam are aprarabdha, kutam. So aprarabdha, which we already talked, sinful reaction that are not been experienced in present life. And then we have kutam, sinful reactions about to become bijam. So we have already done, and then we are sowing the seed of the sinful reactions, that is called bijam. And then this bijam, that is called kutam. And then the bijam is nothing but the sinful reactions about to be experienced. And the last one is prarabdha or phalomukham, sinful reactions already matured and being experienced presently. And that is what we are experiencing, the prarabdha. Yeah. Next, yes. And then we also discussed that there was some contradictions which we heard about immediate versus gradual destructions of the sinful reactions. A very good example was presented about the needle piercing the lotus leaves. So we keep lotus leaves stacked over the other, and once we start piercing the needle one by one, so the needle pierces because the lotus leaf is so soft. So the needle pierces gradually. It goes from 1 to second to third, and it happens so instantly. So this gradual versus immediate, the understanding about this destruction of sinful reaction is given by these examples of the lotus leaves. And this is a very good example which tells us that how our bhakti gets, our all the sins get destroyed by the overall bhakti. Yeah. And the last bottom line we understood is Krishna bhakti is like a blazing fire that can burn to ashes all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it. So the ultimate goal is Krishna bhakti. Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hope it was fruitful, and then sorry if I have made any mistakes. Thank you.
Prabhuji, you made a very nice presentation. Really appreciate. Very wonderful, very wonderfully done with a lot of understanding and I would say details you added, and also you covered it in a very succinctly and very timely. So that is very nicely done. Thank you.
Dandavat pranam,
Uh,
Prabhu. Thank
yeah,
you.
just one thing I would like to mention here. When we say klesha is threefold, so we need to understand here that klesha means suffering, and this suffering comes at three levels. One is when we do the pap or when we do the sinful act, we get the reaction, we get the suffering. But the klesha also in a subtle form is available or is present in pap, bijam, and avidya. So these are also kleshas. That is something which I would like to add here. And another point I would like to add here is when we are talking about that piercing of that lotus leaves, a stack of lotus leaves, needle piercing it. So it starts from prarabdha, then bijam, then kutam, and then aprarabdha, like that. So it goes in this direction. These are subtle. Uh, these are subtle papam, kutam and bijam. We will talk more about them in today's class. So they are pierced in the reverse order like this: prarabdha first, bijam, then kutam, and then like aprarabdha, like that. It goes in that direction. Okay. So that was very nice. And in today's class, I would like to mention that last week I got this book which I mentioned to you in the previous class, Waves of Devotion. So when I presented the class number 3 to you last time, I did not have this book. So I could not refer this book while presenting this class. However, when this book came to me, I just checked what more does it contain, and is it really beneficial or useful, is it adding to my understanding further, and so on. And I was pleasantly surprised that the book indeed actually adds a lot of clarity and a lot of other details to understand these concepts even more deeply. So we will once again go back to some of the concepts that we have discussed already, and I would like to add some of the details from the book that I just now showed you, and what additional things I understood from that book. Hmm. So we'll take you back to this flow chart where we talked about that klesha, the suffering actually is threefold. We just now discussed in the summary also, and we said that the klesha is threefold: uh, papam, papa bijam, and avidya. It starts from avidya, ignorance, and we will talk a little later also about this. What is this avidya? What is this ignorance is all about? And because of this ignorance, we develop material desires, and these material desires later on manifest as sinful reaction, which is papam, and ultimately, because that sinful reaction has occurred in our life, then it causes suffering. And later on, in the coming slides, we elaborated on this part, that this papam actually is of two types, prarabdha and aprarabdha. And this is what the slide that we showed you, aprarabdha and prarabdha, which we discussed just now. Aprarabdha means to be experienced in future life. We are still waiting the distress to come. And prarabdha means it is already matured, already suffering, like that. So this is how we discuss this. But now I will add you another slide after that slide, which is this. And if you want to understand this slide, we need to understand what we are doing in this slide. We are elaborating on this portion. Papam, aprarabdha and prarabdha. So we are elaborating on this portion, which means you see here, papam, aprarabdha, this is one type, and aprarabdha means two types. So we are kind of elaborating on aprarabdha in two ways. Aprarabdha means the sinful reaction is going to come to us in future, but there are these sinful reaction will occur in two ways. What are those? Both are not yet matured, but there will be two different ways these sinful reaction will come. One is prarabdha, that we already studied in the previous slide, that when we will do a sinful reaction, for example, a person has committed a theft, but the police has not caught him yet, and the person will be caught maybe in few months time and so on. So that is what the example is. So which means direct physical or emotional suffering is going to come us, but there is some side effect also happens. And what is that side effect? That side effect is known as kutam. We also studied kutam in the later slides, but I will elaborate on that kutam also when I go to that slide. But kutam means what? Kutam means sinful proclivity. This is indirect, this is direct suffering, but this is indirect suffering, which means increased sinful proclivity. Now I will explain this with an example. One example can be given that if a person drinks alcohol, or maybe a person engages in sex life, and if he indulges in sex life without any discrimination and so on, then there will be two reactions will happen. Two possibilities are there. One possibility is that the person will get physical disease. He will get physical disease, maybe sexually transmitted disease he may get, or second one is emotionally he will be suffering. Emotionally suffering means maybe if a person has a family, then his relationship with his wife, or maybe with his children and so on, with his family members, will also get tensed out because of this. So at an emotional level and at a physical level, the suffering will come. And that physical suffering is something which is here, which is known as prarabdha, which we already discussed. But proclivity, what is this proclivity? Proclivity means tendency to commit sin. Tendency to commit sin means the person, when he engages in sinful desires or sexual activity, he will further would like to increase, further would like to engage in the sexual activity in the future also. Same example we can give with the help of alcohol. If a person drinks alcohol, one is he will get direct suffering. His liver might get damaged, his health will be ruined, and so on. His emotional relationship with family, society, etc. That also will be problematic. But once he drinks alcohol, for the first time, maybe he has drunk the alcohol, he will get the taste. He will get the taste, and he will further would like to drink that alcohol. So the point is, the more he tries, the second time he drinks alcohol, that proclivity to drink that alcohol will increase. Third time he will drink, it will further increase. So the point is, this aprarabdha karma comes in two ways. One is in direct suffering, and another one is in indirect suffering. And this indirect suffering is actually increased sinful proclivity to do that activity again and again. So the point here is, or the lesson learned for us is, that all of us, we have these kind of sinful proclivities to do something, some sinful activity. So we need to check this sinful proclivity at a preliminary stage itself. Like for example, uh, when somebody gets cancer, we all know that cancer has several stages. stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and like that. So if the disease is caught at the preliminary stage itself, it is easy to cure. So like this, we all have sinful tendencies, proclivities, material desires. So we need not act upon those material desires, or we try to check that thought or that desire or that proclivity at that stage only, when it is there within our mind, within our heart, etc. And that will prevent us from all these kind of suffering. It will prevent us from that klesha. And we will see how bhakti actually destroys not only uh, the klesha. These are the three kleshas: papam, papa bijam, and avidya. So bhakti destroys klesha also, papa at the papam stage, at the pap bijam stage, and at the avidya stage. So in the previous class we had already studied how uh, aprarabdha haratvam and prarabdha haratvam. It destroys it at aprarabdha level and prarabdha level. We have discussed that. So this chart I have added uh, uh, further from that book, Waves of Devotion, and I wanted to share with that with you. So this is all we have discussed: prarabdha haratvam and aprarabdha haratvam. And then we had this discussion about Padma Puran, where we discussed aprarabdha, kutam, and bijam, and phalonmukham, and so on. But uh, then we discussed this flow chart, where we discuss aprarabdha, the kutam, to bijam, and phalonmukham, which is phalonmukham is same as prarabdha. But from this book, Waves of Devotion, I got additional understanding, or little more understanding about this chart, which has been explained with the help of an example. So how aprarabdha leads to kutam, and kutam leads to bijam, and bijam leads to phalonmukham. There is a subtle difference between each of these four stages. And that subtle difference can be understood with the help of a example, with the help of an analogy. So let us start from the aprarabdha. So imagine that a man has committed a sinful act. And because of that sinful act, that man is destined to become a thief in future, maybe in the next life or next to next life, and so on. In the distant future, after several lives, that man is destined to become a thief because of that sinful act. So that is something which is known as aprarabdha. That is aprarabdha klesh. Aprarabdha klesh has already begun. That is there, but it is not manifested. That suffering has not come in his life, in the person's life. That has not come. Now, when the person commits that sinful act, how it will mature? So I said sin kutam. Kutam means what? Sinful proclivity. Proclivity means tendency to be tendency. It creates a tendency. Tendency to for committing a theft or committing some theft activity in the future. So this reaction is going to come in the next life, but an unnoticed proclivity for cheating and dishonesty. So here the cheating and dishonesty, this tendency will generate within the mind or within the heart. Tendency to cheat and tendency to dishonest. Now nobody will notice that. Nobody will notice means the person himself might not notice that kind of a proclivity developing, but that proclivity will be there hidden inside the consciousness, inside the mind, inside the heart. That will be there. And then what happens is, in bijam, this proclivity becomes a desire, a mature desire. Mature desire means this proclivity intensifies and eventually manifests as explicit desire to steal. Now the person has a desire. Now he has a desire in his heart to steal something. Here in the kutam stage, he does not have that desire to steal, but he had developed the tendency to dishonesty and to cheat someone. Then ultimately acts upon that desire, he does some stealing, and then ultimately that aprarabdha will become a prarabdha. The manifest sinful reaction is there. Now the police is after the thief. When he has done the stealing, the police is after this person to catch him, to give him klesha. So this is how we need to understand it, huh? And we discussed all these things. Ultimately, we have discussed the recap of class number 3. So now, after that discussion, we now move to the fresh topic of the class today, which starts from the 24th slok of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, chapter number 1, which is wave number 1. So I hope you remember the whole flow chart. If you don't remember, maybe I can just quickly take you back to the initial. So this is the slide that we have discussed in the previous class. So where we are, we have done the Mangalacharan, we have done the definition of Uttama Bhakti. Now we are discussing Uttama Bhakti's 6 qualities, and the rest of the chapter will all discuss the 6 qualities. Right now we are discussing Kleshagni. In Kleshagni, we have discussed Klesha. We are discussing Klesha. Klesha are 3 types, which is Avidya, then Bijam, Papa Bijam, and then Papam. These are 3 Kleshas. And then we are discussing Aprarabdha, Prarabdha, and then further we are refining all that discussion. And we will continue with our discussion on Kleshagni today. And then we will try to cover 2 other qualities. One is Shubhda, that is also quite an elaborate coverage Prabhupada has given on this. On Shubhda, maybe I have not mentioned these verse numbers properly here, 37 to 32. That doesn't seem right to me. I think this is Shubhda is from 27 to 32. So my apologies, it is 27 to 32. So we will try to cover this, and then if possible, if time permits, we will also try to do Moksha Labdakrat. I've already prepared the slides. So I hope that gives you a good idea where we are in the course right now, or in this class right now. Okay. Now, as I mentioned to you, we are discussing Kleshagni. Bhakti destroys Klesha. And then we discuss 3 types of Kleshas. One is Avidya, second one is Pap Bijam, and the third one is Papam. So what we have done so far is we have covered that Bhakti destroys Papam. Papam means sinful desires or sinful actions or sinful reactions. So that we have already discussed. And in order to discuss that, we have discussed all sort of things, aprarabdha haratvam, prarabdha haratvam, and so on, right? And little subtle details about what is kutam and what is bijam, that we have covered. Now we are coming to the next part. So avidya and papa bijam and papam. So papam we have already discussed. Now we are coming to pap bijam. Pap bijam. Request the devotees to kindly mute their microphone. Atul Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So now coming to the second klesha, which is bija, pap bijam. Now here Srila Rupa Goswami is making a statement that bhakti does bija haratvam. Bij haratvam. Haratvam means taken away. It stoles away the. So that is means hara. Harna. Jaise we call Draupadi ka cheer haran. Cheer haran means taking the chira of Draupadi. So bij haratvam. So haran. We are doing bhakti does the haran of the bija, pap bija. So bhakti destroys the seed of the sin. And what are the seed of the sin? What is the understanding of the seed of the sin that we discussed? It is sinful desires. So now you remember, we had avidya, then we had kutam. Kutam means proclivity, and then the next one is bijam. Bijam means not the desire. The proclivity, the inclination has now converted into a desire to do some sin. So The next stage is Bija Haratvam. Bhakti destroys the seed of sin, namely sinful desires. And in order to prove his point, in order to give reference from the scriptures, which Srila Rupa Goswami has been giving in this book from all over the Vedic literature, he once again quotes Srimad Bhagavatam, and this time he quotes from the 6th canto, 2nd chapter, 17th verse. And this second chapter is about the story of Ajamil. I hope you know the story of Ajamil. Maybe we have discussed this in the previous classes. Ajamil was born in a Brahmanical family. He was a Brahmana. And from his childhood, he was a Pakka Brahmana. He would follow all the rules and regulations of Brahmanical life. He will do all those things of Brahmana. But one fine day, he saw that a Shudra and the Shudrani were embracing each other. And when he saw that vision, when he saw that scene, he got caught up in that sinful act these people were doing, and he also developed the desire to do similar activities. So that is where this verse is coming from. Verse is coming from chapter number 2 of canto number 6, which is mainly about the story of Ajamil. And this verse goes like this: Taistani adhani puyante tapodana vratadibhi na adharmajam tadahridayam na adharmajam tadahridayam tad apishangri sevaya tad apishangri sevaya. Now let us understand this line by line. Tais tani aghani puyante. So puyante means what? Puyante means neutralize. Like we say that army soldiers have neutralized the terrorist. Neutralize means finished. So neutralize is a little neutral word. So although one may neutralize, which means puyante, heavy or light sinful reactions. Tais tani aghani. Aghani means sinful reactions. Taistani aghani puyante. By what? By tapa, dan, and mrata adibhi. Adhi means etc. etc. By doing some austerity, which means tapa, by doing some charity, which means dana, and mratadibhi. Vrata means vows, and so on. So, if we do some charity, if we do some austerity, if we take some vows, and so on, we may neutralize our sinful reaction. And but here, na adharmajam tad hridayam, na adharmajam tad hridayam. So here you see the word is na adharmajam. Jam means born out of. Adharma means material desires. Na means no. So the material desires, uh, these pious acts, which pious acts? Austerity, charity, and vows. These pious acts cannot uproot the material desires. Na adharmajam tad hridayam. Hridayam means heart. These pious acts, austerity, charity, and vows, cannot uproot the material desires. Material desires means subtle form of sins. So sin, when somebody makes a sin, when, for example, when somebody steals, that is a gross form of sin. But subtle form of sins means material desires, which is present in our heart in the form of desires. So these pious acts cannot uproot the material desires, which are subtle form of sins in the heart. Tad hridayam. But how can one uproot these subtle form of sins? Tad api shangri. Tad api shangri sevaya. So tad api shangri sevaya means, but if one serve Krishna's lotus feet, api shangri, shangri means lotus feet. Tad api shangri sevaya. Sevaya means service. Once again, that word service, sevaya, is coming. Devotees always hankering for sevaya. But if one serves Krishna's lotus feet, one is quickly freed from all sinful desire seeds. One is quickly freed from all sinful desire seeds. So that is something where Rupa Goswami is quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam and saying that how bhakti is bija haratvam. Bij haratvam, bij, definition of bij means desires, sinful desires or material desires. And how he has proven from quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam how Shuddha Bhakti, how pure Bhakti of service to the lotus feet of the Lord can uproot the subtle forms of sins which are present in our heart in the form of sinful desires. Like that. Now, in order to understand this further, Srila Prabhupada has given examples in Nectar of Devotion. And these examples you can study in paragraph number 11 to 13 of chapter number 1. And example number 1 is corresponding to paragraph 11. Example number 2 is paragraph 12. And example number 3 is paragraph 13. So, what are these examples? So, I gave you a little background about the story of Ajamil in Srimad Bhagavatam, canto number 6. So, you can see in the story of Ajamil, it is mentioned that Ajamil was a Brahmana. He got birth in a Brahmanical family, was doing all his Brahmanical duties, but sinful desires remained in his heart. He was doing Brahmanical duties, charity, tapa, dana, vrata. Tapa means he was doing a lot of tapa, a lot of austerities, waking up early in the morning and doing all kind of austerities. And then dan, he would giving charity, he would do vrata. Vrata means he would taking difficult vows like vrata, etc., etc. Was doing all those Brahmanical duties, but sinful desires still remained in his heart. And when simple act, and when he saw that Shudra and Shudrani embracing themselves, that sinful desire became a little more stronger. And he chose to act upon that sinful desire. So like that you can see how once if we don't check the our sinful desire, our sinful tendencies at the desire level, then if we continue to act upon those desires or we continue to develop those desires, one day we will act. One day we will act upon that desire. So something similar happened with Ajamil. The point here, dear devotees, is that he was doing Brahmanical duties, but sinful desires were there in his heart, and those Brahmanical duties could not eradicate those sinful desires. However, later in his life, when he was in his 80s, at a very advanced stage of his life, simply chanting Narayan, simply chanting the holy name of the Lord, Narayan, uprooted all his calamities. His devotional service once again started. His devotional life once again started. He saw how Vishnu Duta came and rescuing him from the Yamadutas, and then he realized what wrong I have done throughout my life. And then he went to Haridwar, and 12 years he spent in devotional service, and ultimately went back to Godhead to the to serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, like that. So that is the story of Ajamil. Once again, the point is uh, tapa dan vrata is not going to uproot the material desires. Only pure devotional service can uproot material desires. Like Ajamil, when we are chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, what we are doing is we are uprooting our sinful desires which are there in our heart from time and memorial. The second example is of excessive sex indulgence. And this example is such acts will cause disease which could be cured by medical treatment. I gave you this example also early in the class. If somebody is engaged in lusty sexual activities indiscriminately, then he might need a medical attention because he might develop diseases like maybe syphilis, AIDS, gonorrhea, etc., etc. And if he develops those kind of disease, there is a medical treatment available in the hospital. So that disease can be cured by some medical treatment. But even after curing the disease by medical cure or medical treatment, the desire of acting upon that sexual desire doesn't go. That desire doesn't go from the heart. So the medical treatment, the hospitals of this world have the cure for curing the disease that has manifested because of indiscriminate sexual activity. But no hospital in this world has the treatment to cure that desire which prompts to act upon that on that desire of indulging into sex, etc., etc. But if one engages in devotional service, that desire can be uprooted. So for curing sex desire, heart needs to be clean. And how to clean the heart? The heart can be cleaned by performing devotional service to the Lord. So when you are chanting, when you are serving the devotees, when you are offering arti to the Lord, that desire is getting uprooted. That desire is getting uprooted. Another example, number 3, is elephant taking a bath. So we see many times elephant go into the river, takes bath, comes out, and once again pour dust upon the body. So what the elephant is doing? Elephant is cleaning only externally, but internally he is not clean. And internally, because he is not clean, so even after cleaning or taking a bath, once he comes out, he once again throws dirt on his body. So these are the 3 examples where Prabhupada is saying or trying to establish this fact that simply by doing these vrata, tapadan vrata, we cannot uproot the sinful desires which are there in our heart, but by doing bhakti, we can do so. Now, so we have discussed papa haratvam, aprarabdha, prarabdha, kutam, and so on. And then bij haratvam means material desire, klesha at the level of material desire. Now we are coming to the third one, which is avidya haratvam. Avidya haratvam means bhakti destroys ignorance. Ignorance of what? We will discuss. But in order to establish this fact, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes once again from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is coming from the 4th canto, 22nd chapter and 39th verse. Avidya haratvam. And what this verse says? This verse says, Yatapad pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karmashayam grathitam udgrathyanti santaha tadvanna rikta matayo yatayo piruddha shroto ganastam arnam bhajavasudevam. Very sweet verse and very nice words have been used in this verse, which has got a very deep meaning. Some of these words have a very deep meaning, and we will discuss that. So, yat pad pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya. Yat pad pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya. By serving the toes of the Lord's lotus feet. Pankaja. Pad means feet. Pankaja means lotus. Very soft. The Lord's feet are very soft. The Lord's feet are very soft. Palash here would mean the toes, the front portion of the Lord's lotus feet. Vilas means enjoying. Bhaktya means devotees. So devotees enjoy in serving the toes of the Lord's lotus feet. Yat pad pankaja palash vilas bhaktya. And then karmashayam grathitam udgrathyanti santaha. Santaha, the word santa has come for devotees. Karmashayam grathitam udgrathyanti santaha. Grathitam. Here the word grathitam is actually very important. Granthi or granthi means knot. Knot means like we have a thread, and when we make a knot in the thread, that knot is very difficult to remove. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to remove that knot. And this avidya has actually been compared to a granthi. Granthi means it is a very hard knot. Avidya, there is one information which every living entity should understand, and that understanding of that information is so difficult to understand, or so difficult to get convinced about, that this kind of avidya has been compared to a hard knot. Devotees can easily overcome the hard knotted desire of fruitive activities. Karmashayam grathitam udgrathayanti santaha. Overcome. Overcome means what? Udgrathayanti santaha. So devotees can easily overcome that hard knotted desire of fruitive activities. Fruitive activities means because of this avidya, because of this hard knot, huh, uh, living entity engage always for their enjoyment. Living entity always continue to engage in fruitive activities. Fruitive activities means if I do something, I will get something in return. So selfish fruitive activities, devotees. But if the devotees serve the toes of the Lord's lotus feet, they can easily overcome that hard knotted desire. Then what is the third line? Tadvan rikta matayo yatayo piruddha. Here the word is rikta matayo. Rikta matayo means, mata means mind, rikt means empty. Empty. So the empty minded cannot do so, although they try to stop. So rikt matayo has been compared to as empty minded. Empty minded, these are the people who are jnanis and the yogis. Jnanis and the yogis. Why they are called as empty minded? Because the whole objective of jnana and yoga, like impersonal meditation and so on, is mainly to control the mind. They want to empty the mind of any selfish desires, any fruitive desires. So that is what they try to do, the jnanis and the yogis. Tadvan na riktamatayo. The empty minded cannot do so. What they cannot do so? They cannot easily overcome the hard knotted desire of fruitive activities. They cannot do so. Although they try to stop. What these jnanis and yogis, the meditators, they try to do, they try to stop. Shroto ganas. Shroto ganas means flow of desires. That desires keep on coming, flowing inside their mind. And by doing these meditation, by engaging in Jnana Yoga means studying these Upanishads and impersonal Brahman, meditating upon all that. They try to do what? They try to stop the flow of desires. But they cannot do so. Therefore, Bhaj Vasudevam, Tam Arnam, Bhaj Vasudevam, Tam Arnam means take shelter. Bhaj Vasudevam and do bhakti of Vasudev. Vasudev is no other than Lord Krishna. Therefore, take shelter of Krishna bhakti. So here, see, this hard knotted desire is actually compared to avidya. And from where do we get this information? We get this information from the commentary of Jeeva Goswami in this book called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So I have been discussing these books in the previous classes. So you can check my previous classes if you are still not clear about the various books. And here, if you see the 25th verse, where Srila Jeeva Goswami gives commentary on this quotation that Srila Rupa Goswami makes, he quotes from Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verse number 17 till 21. So he quotes 4 verses. And in these 4 verses, what he is shown is that when the person engages in bhakti or hearing Krishna Katha, then what happens? So he, in these 4 verses, canto number 1, chapter number 2, verse number 17 to 21, these are the 5 verses, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 5 verses. What has been mentioned here is when the person start engaging in bhakti by means of hearing Krishna Katha, what happens? Stage by stage, things starts to work upon the consciousness of the person. And the first stage, it is said, by regular attendance in the classes of Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. So, Shranamatam Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridayantasto hi abhadrani, Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam. So, when the person starts to do this bhakti, the unwanted things starts to get destroyed from the heart. So that is the beginning. Then he moves further. Then, as this is known as nishtha, the bhakti actually has become strong. means regular hearing, regular doing all this, the unwanted thing starts to get rooted out. Then goes to the next stage. In the next stage, what happens is, as soon as the Nashtiki Bhakti is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion, ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Now, what happens? Stage 2, the mode of passion, Rajoguna and Tamoguna gets destroyed. Then the devotee is established in pure goodness. Now, the devotee has started to establish himself in pure goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Now, it further gets condensed. So to now it was nishtha, then it ruchi and asakti. It is now more stronger. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness. Now he is in goodness. Evam prasanna manaso. Bhagavad bhakti yogata. Now he is now established in bhakti, in goodness. The man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the Lord in the stage of liberation from all material association. Now, what happens is he gets the scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. He starts to get some realization of the Lord. This is called bhava stage, a further stage advanced. Now, avidya. And here what he says, avidya. So this is what we are coming at avidya haratvam. So in this 21st verse, he's saying, Bhidyate hridaya granthis, chidhyante sarva samshaya. Bhidyate hridaya granthis. So here, while explaining granthi, it has been mentioned that actually it is avidya. Thus the knot of the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated with one when one sees the Lord who is Atma. Atma means the Paramatma. So he realizes the Lord in the mind. So the point I am trying to make here by quoting this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam as given in the commentary by Jeeva Goswami is, here the word Granthi is actually compared to a very hard knot, and this is compared to avidya in Srimad Bhagavatam. And when you do bhakti, this avidya is haratvam, this avidya is stolen away. And now coming to the slide where what is the root cause of this whole suffering? Avidya, then bijam, and then papam, and then comes klesha. And but this avidya is also klesha, is a subtle form of klesha. This is suffering we are undergoing in our life of this ignorance. Avidya means ignorance. So tight knot of false ego is due to ignorance. False ego means considering ourselves as the master, considering ourselves as the master of the uh, whole surroundings that we live in. That is the false ego, and this is actually ignorance. This is avidya. But what is the right ego? What is the true ego? And what is the vidya? What is the good knowledge, or the right knowledge? The right knowledge is that we are Krishna's eternal servant. Root cause of suffering is ignorance of our true identity as Krishna's eternal servant. What we are thinking, we are the masters, but we have forgotten that our real master is actually Lord Krishna. And this is the primary reason for our suffering in this world. This is the basic fundamental reason of our suffering. So what happens is, in ignorance, we act as enjoyer and suffer the concomitant reactions. We forget to acknowledge Lord, we forget to acknowledge God in our life. And that is the reason we falsely understand that we are the masters and then try to live our life accordingly. And that, because we don't consider God in our life, we continue to act upon in a way which is against the teachings of the Lord, which is against the directions of the Lord, and we continue to do material activities. We start to generate material desires. We start to these material desires then manifest into sinful reactions, and then ultimately we get the klesha, we get the suffering. So fundamentally, the root cause is our forgetfulness that we are actually Krishna's eternal sevaks, servants, servitors. Now, moving forward, there is a reference from Padma Puran Rupa Goswami gives, and he says, Bhakti burns avidya by the vidya that appears by itself by the practice of bhakti. Here the important point is, how does this vidya comes? Vidya comes, you don't have to read big books. Simply by practicing bhakti, we understand what is the right vidya. For example, when you perform arti to the Lord, what are we trying to do in the arti? We are trying to acknowledge the Lord that you are actually the master of all these five Panch Mahabhuts. Jal, Agni, Prithvi, Vayu, Akash. You are the master. When we are offering Deepak, when we are offering the ghee lamp, we are offering Agni. When we are offering water, we are offering the Jal element of the Panch Mahabhut. We are offering, similarly, we are offering our mind. We are offering our ego. We are offering our intelligence, like that. So all these 8 elements that we see, Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, Akash, Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, all these Ashtadha elements of the Prakriti, we are offering in the Arati. So simply by doing Arati, we are actually uprooting the avidya. We are acknowledging that the Lord is the master of my life. And Lord is not only the master of my life, actually Lord is the master of everything present in this universe. So simply by doing bhakti, we uproot this avidya by vidya, and that appears by itself by the practice of bhakti. By the practice of bhakti, this knowledge itself manifests within our heart. You don't have to read big books for that. Even though one doesn't desire it, one doesn't desire it. Even if you don't want that vidya to come to your heart, still that vidya will come to your heart. It is just like forest fire burning up the snake. It is just like forest fire burning up the things. So this is coming from the Padma Puran. Here, on the analogy of burning of the snake, Prabhupada makes a point in Nectar of Devotion, which you can read in paragraph number 15 here. He says, when a forest fire takes place, it burns the dried foliage first, and the snakes are immediately attacked. So in the forest, there are many animals. One who are four-legged animals, animals living on the trees, animals living on the ground, etc. But when the forest fire takes place, the first thing that burns is the dried foliage which has fallen from the trees and lying on the ground. And where do snake lies? Snake lies on the ground itself. So immediately at the forest fire, this dry foliage catches the fire the first, and as soon as this foliage gets fire, the snakes get no chance even to run or flee away. So that is why it is just like forest fire burning up the snake. So it is quite a graphic analogy, and Prabhupada has elaborated upon that analogy to further give you details on how bhakti actually quickly removes avidya also from our heart. Now, in this slide, I have once again taken this chart from this book called Waves of Devotion, again flashing it in before you. Uh, in this wave of devotion, this whole discussion that we have done for Kleshagni, this whole discussion has been summarized in this very beautiful chart here. It says avidya, and avidya causes bijam, and then bijam causes papam, that we have already discussed. Then we have discussed papam of two types, aprarabdha and prarabdha, and aprarabdha ultimately converts into prarabdha, and then prarabdha, when it is manifest as prarabdha, we get suffering. But also we saw that when we do any sinful activity, we are bound to get any reaction in the future. But at the same time, we also develop increased proclivity, sinful disposition to commit that papam again and again. So papam, and then sinful disposition, kutam, and then bijam. Again, that cycle continues to go on. So you can see that in this chart, we have actually summarized two charts. What are those two charts? We have summarized, or we have joined these two charts, and these charts are this avidya, pap, bijam, pap, and klesha. And then we have also clubbed this chart, this particular one, papam, where aprarabdha to prarabdha, and or sorry, I would say this chart. Aprarabdha, Kutam, Bijam, and Phalonmikham. So these two charts we have combined very nicely in our in one chart here from avidya to klesha. And you can think a little bit about it. I'm not going to elaborate upon it. I have already sufficiently elaborated in the previous slides. But this I have picked up from this Wave of Devotion book. Now, now we move to the next characteristic of devotional service, and this is the second one. So far we have discussed one, Kleshagni. When we discuss Kleshagni, we discuss Klesha. We discuss Klesha of three types, Avidya, Bijam, and Papam. Then Papam, Aprarabdha, Prarabdha, and then between Aprarabdha and Prarabdha, we further define two other subtle points, Kutam and Bijam, and how step by step Srila Rupa Goswami has proven by giving references that it destroys Papam, it destroys Papa Bijam, it destroys Avidya, Bhakti. That's how we have discussed so far in the Kleshagni part of this of one the first quality of pure devotional service. Now we are moving to the next one, which is Shubhada. The next quality of devotional service is Shubhada. Shubha means auspiciousness, and Da means giver of auspiciousness. So Bhakti is giver of auspiciousness. Now this quality of Bhakti is related with the quality that we have just now, which is Kleshagni, which means it destroys the suffering. So once the suffering is destroyed, the natural result is we get auspiciousness, we get relief, we get some auspiciousness in our life. That's what happens. So Shubhada, so probably I made a mistake, spelling mistake. No, sorry. I think Shubha means auspiciousness and Da means giver. Right, that is correct. Okay. Here, in the verse number 27 of Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami is now making his own statement. He's saying how Bhakti gives four types of auspiciousness. Bhakti gives Shubhada, Bhakti Shubhada, it gives four types of auspiciousness. And he makes this verse, this is composed by Srila Rupa Goswami, this is not a quotation from the Vedic scripture, this is Rupa Goswami's own writing in Nectar of in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says, Shubhani Prinanam. I'll probably read from the book itself, verse number 27. Shubhani Prinanam, which means Jagat Prinanam. Jagat Prinanam means benefits everyone. Benefits everyone. Then Sarva Jagatam Anuraktata. Sarva Jagatam Anuraktata means Anurakt. Anurakt means attraction. Sarva Jagatam means the whole world. Jagatam Anuraktata means attracts everyone. Attracts everyone. Then Sadgunaha. Sadgunaha means Sadgunadi Pradatvam. Sadgunadi Pradatvam. Pradatvam means giver. Datvam. Datvam means giver. Sadgunadi Pradatvam means it bestows all good qualities. It gives very lot of good qualities. It gives all good qualities rather. And Sukham Itya Adini. Itya Adini. Itya Adini means etc. etc. Sukham. Sukham means it gives pleasure. It gives happiness. Sukham Pradatvam gives superior happiness and other items. Iti Adini. Iti Adini means etc. Other items, etc. etc. Akhyantani Manishibhi. Akhyantini Manishibhi means who are the learned people, who are wise people. This is what these wise people mention about Bhakti. What kind of auspiciousness Bhakti gives. This has been mentioned about Manishibhi, means wise people. What are these? It benefits everyone. Jagat Prinana. It attracts everyone. It is Jagatam Anuraktata. It is bestows all good qualities, Sadgunadi Pradatvam, and it gives superior happiness, Sukha Pradatvam. Now, quotation starts. Srila Rupa Goswami starts to quote. See, I have made this statement from where I can find the evidence in the Vedic literature. So, for item number 1 and 2, what are item number 1 and 2? Benefits everyone and attracts everyone. He quotes one words from Padma Puran. For both 1 and 2, which is Bhakti benefits and attracts everyone, he quotes from Padma Puran. What is that? One who worships the Lord pleases everyone in the world. All living beings, both moving and non-moving, are pleasing to such a devotee, which is mentioned in Padma Puran. All living beings, both moving and non-moving, are pleasing to such a devotee. So, how do we understand that uh, when we worship the Lord, we please everyone in the world? All living beings, both moving and non-moving, are pleasing to such a devotee, because the devotee, when a person does bhakti of the Lord, a devotee sees everything in connection with the Lord. See, Lord Krishna is there and everything is connected to the Lord. Everything is part and parcel of the Lord. Like Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj saw the pillar also as the property of the Lord. So when Hiranyakashipu asked, where is he, Lord? Is he in the pillar? Prahlad Maharaj said with full conviction, yes, he is in the pillar also. And when Hiranyakashipu broke that pillar, Lord actually came out from the pillar. So that is the vision of the devotee. And when the devotee have that vision that everything belongs to the Lord, uh, this human being, this Pakistani or this Hindustani or this Afghanistani or whoever is there, not even Pakistani, Hindustani, Afghanistani, even cows, dogs, uh, goats, and everything, even an ant, he will see has the same spark of consciousness, which is part and parcel of the Lord. Mamai amsho jiva loke. And he sees it like that. So when a devotee sees everything in connection with the Lord, he always think of the welfare of the Lord. Like Srila Prabhupada, he would see everything in connection with the Lord, and hence he would work for everything for the welfare of everyone. Even if you read Bhagavatam, in Bhagavatam there is a story of Jada Bharat. Jada Bharat holding palanquin for the king Rahuguna, and on the way when he is moving, he sees ants on the path. And when he sees ants on the path, he does not want to step on the ants he sees on the path. So that is the consciousness of the devotee. And he works for the welfare of everyone. And when a person works for the welfare of everyone, such a person attracts everyone. So who would not be attracted by some personality like that, who is thinking of everyone's welfare, who's selflessly always committed for the welfare of others, because he sees everything and everybody in connection with the Supreme Lord. And you can see here, this particular verse which is quoting from Padma Puran talks about moving and non-moving, all living beings, all living beings. And when he talks about all living beings, so Lord Chaitanya, while traveling in Jharikanda forest, while traveling to the Jharikanda forest, induced wild animals, induced wild animals to chant and dance Hare Krishna. Not only wild animals, I think I should also mention here trees and creepers also. So this is 28. All wild animals actually, he induced them to chant and dance and Hare Krishna. So what happened was, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, uh, who was passing from the Jharikanda forest, I think that comes somewhere in Bihar, probably, I may be wrong, but it comes somewhere in India, Jharikanda, and there he found many wild animals like tigers, and elephants, deer, all kind of wild animals. And when he asked them to chant Hare Krishna, the wild animals also chanted Hare Krishna. That is a instance which is mentioned in the scriptures. So we may not create or we may not induce wild animals to chant Hare Krishna. We may not have that potency, but Lord has that potency. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is no other than Lord Krishna himself. We may not have that potency, but we can at least do something that to the animal kind of desires that people have. We can eradicate those desires and induce them to chant Hare Krishna. At least that much we can do. So these are the examples which are given by Prabhupada in the book, and you can see in paragraph 16 and 17. You can read those. Now moving further. Bhakti bestows good qualities. Shubhada, all auspiciousness. The first two we have discussed, uh, beneficial for everyone and attracts everyone. The third one is bestows all good qualities. Here again, Rupa Goswami is quoting from Bhagavatam, canto number 5. And here that verse is, devotees of the Lord can develop all good qualities of demigods. Demigods means devata. All good qualities of demigods. So that is 29th verse. It says, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagvati akanchina sarvair gunes tatra samasate suraha. Sura means devatas. Asura means demons. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagvati akinchana sarvair gunes. Sarvair gunes means all good qualities. Tatra samasate. समासते मीन्स समा जाती हैं उसके अंदर. तत्र समासते सुरा. जो गुणों, जो देवताओं में जो गुण हैं वो सब उसके अंदर समा जाते हैं. Now Prabhupada in his work in Nectar of Devotion, he tries to support this by quoting 2 points, by mentioning 2 points. He says, he dispels the doubt that modern education can endow with good qualities. So people might think that my children are educated, I am educated, that I have all good qualities within me. And Prabhupada is dispelling this misconception. So material education that we see or that we get in our schools and colleges and universities does not get rid of, does not eradicate or does not remove these bad habits from our heart. So he gives this example that even if a person is uneducated, but he is Krishna conscious, he is engaged in Krishna bhakti, he has that love of the Lord in his heart, he can immediately give up the bad qualities of meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, and all that. He can immediately give up that bad qualities. But highly educated people cannot give. And I'll give you a very good example. If you remember, President of United States Bill Clinton, he publicly admitted having sexual relationship with his own personal secretary. You remember? It was a very famous instance. Now this person is a president of United States. He is not only educated, highly educated, but at present at a very high post. Such highly educated people or highly educated people, and not only, I'm not trying to belittle the achievements of Bill Clinton, but the point I'm trying to make is that modern education does not remove bad qualities from our heart. But even if a person is uneducated, a simple auto rickshaw driver, a simple fruit seller on the street who may not have gone to the big universities and colleges of this world, but he simply reads Ramayana, if he simply reads Bhagavad Gita, if he simply reads Srimad Bhagavatam, has liking for Srimad Bhagavatam, has attraction for the service of the Lord, lotus feet, he can immediately give all these bad qualities. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. And then another point he is mentioning here is, he is dispelling the doubt that Hatha Yoga can bestow all good qualities. Hatha Yoga means the pranayam, the asanas, and that all is actually fall under the category of Hatha Yoga. After yogic performances, Hatha yogis will engage in all kind of sinful activities. So you can see, even today also you can go to a yoga center. Yoga center means the Hatha Yoga center, where all these pranayams and asanas all are there. They do bring some purification. I'm not saying, I'm not completely removing them from the that they are completely useless. No, they will bring health benefits. They will actually help you control the mind and so on and so forth. But it will not act in that capability or in that magnitude which a pure devotional service can act. So when people are doing all this Hatha Yoga and all that, even then they will go out and drink, smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol or engage in illicit sex and so on and so on. So now there are people have uh, derived different kinds of Hatha Yoga. They are kind of deviating even from the proper Hatha Yoga system also. They do dog yoga. Dog yoga means doing yoga together with your dog, or doing yoga together with your partner, so that you can engage in sexual indulgence in much more nicely, much more with much more vigor and energy and so on. So uh, Prabhupada is again saying that even if you are doing Hatha Yoga, it cannot bestow all good qualities. And that's what he's trying to mention. Here you can see I have always quoted here which paragraph this particular bullet point is coming from in Nectar of Devotion. So this is coming from paragraph 19 and 20, and this is coming from paragraph 21. So we will try to finish Shubhada today. We probably may not be able to do Moksha Labhutakrat. And here, Bhakti gives superior happiness. This is the fourth point. And further on elaborating on this, there are three types of happiness. Bhakti gives all three types of happiness: material, and spiritual, and so on. So what are the three types of happiness? These are material happiness, known as Vaishayikam. Vaishayikam means Vishay. Vishay means sense objects. Material happiness you can get from Bhakti. Liberation means Brahman. Brahman means which is coming from uh, merging into the impersonal Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti, that is moksha, moksha, liberation, and then devotional service, which is bhakti itself. So the pleasure of bhakti, which is Aishwaram. Aishwaram means, this word is coming from the word Ishwara. That by serving the Lord, by engaging in bhakti of the Lord, there are three types of happinesses are there, and bhakti gives all three happinesses. All three happinesses. And then uh, uh, it is bhakti gives superior happiness. So three types of happiness. Superior. Superior means whatever happiness, whatever the quality of happiness we get from material desires, bhakti gives far more superior happiness to that. By liberation, bhakti gives far more superior happiness to the happiness that we get in liberation. And devotional service is already there. So happiness of devotional service is superior for two reasons. What are those two reasons? These two reasons are, it is eternal and others are temporary. Eternal means, and then the second reason is, it includes and excels the pleasures found in others. So if you do devotional service, you will automatically get material happiness, you will automatically get the happiness that you get from liberation. So one is about the duration, that is eternal, and the another one is about the quality. So it includes and excels pleasures found in others. So what this means is, if you have a 100 rupee note, you already have a 5 rupee note. You already have a 50 rupee note. So if you are doing devotional service, you already have the happiness of the liberation included in it. If you are doing devotional service, you already have included the happiness, the type of happiness or the quality of happiness you get from material happiness. So now in the next slide, we will elaborate on these two bullet points. So first of all, we will elaborate on this bullet point. What is that? Bhakti is eternal. Bhakti gives eternal happiness. That's the point we will going to elaborate. And you see again, the mention of paragraphs here, you will find that in the book Nectar of Devotion, this particular topic being discussed. I have summarized it in crisp bullet points so that the point or the subject matter is immediately clear to you when you read the book. Now, we are talking about this first bullet point, that bhakti gives happiness which is eternal. Only the happiness of devotional service is eternal. And what are the three types of happiness we get? We get liberation, we get mystic perfection, and we get sense gratification. So the same points which are covered here: material happiness, liberation, and devotional. So liberation, mystic perfection, and sense gratification cannot bring eternal happiness. So, uh, the point that is being proven here is that happiness by liberation, happiness by mystic perfection, and happiness by sense gratification cannot bring eternal happiness. Eternal means forever, for eternity. And each one of those points now are being elaborated here. Liberation here, mystic perfection here, and sense gratification here. And corresponding paragraphs are mentioned in the parenthesis. Liberation. Liberation is desired by Mayavadis and people who are meditating on impersonal Brahman, Brahma, to merge into Brahma Jyoti. So here Prabhupada in paragraph 25 of Nectar of Devotion mentioned that these Mayavadis, when they get this impersonal liberation, they merge into Brahma Jyoti. But there, they don't get the satisfaction of personal relationship. It is a bright light, and as a spark, as a soul, as a spark, they are floating in the bright light. That's it. So they get relief from material problems. They get relief there. They get ananda there. But but they don't get the deep happiness for that we have in relationship. Like we have in a husband-wife relationship, we have in a relationship between brothers and sisters, like that. So they don't get that kind of a deep satisfaction of relationship. And because they don't get that kind of satisfaction, they once again fall down, once again come back from that position, and then once again return to material activities of opening up hospitals, orphanages, and so on. So that is how liberation does not give happiness which is eternal, because the fall down is still there. Mystic perfection. Mystic perfections are siddhis. Siddhis means when you do yoga, when you do these yogic postures and so on, and if you do them properly and seriously, you can actually get access to some siddhis. Siddhis means that you can do some miracles. Miracles. And Prabhupada is now comparing these yoga siddhis as the subtle version of modern material science. Miracles. So the difference between modern material science and the siddhis is that when the yogis get siddhis, they get access to the higher powers in the universe. We are at the moment in this material body, so we do have access to some. We do have some power. We do have some control. But because of these practices these people do, they have they acquire siddhis uh, uh, by having access to the higher powers in the universe. And because of these access to the higher powers, they can do some miracles. They can do some miracles. But Prabhupada is comparing that these miracles are nothing more than the advancement that we see in modern day technology. Modern day technology. So by these miracles, what these people can do, they can actually talk to someone else in the other part of the universe. They can talk to them. They can go to other planets, and they can do many miracles like that. They can raise. They can if they are sitting in India and they want a fruit, they want an apple from a garden in United States. They can just extend their hand sitting here, and the fruit they can pick up from this place. So these are called siddhis. But modern day science also can get some benefit like that. For example, a mobile phone. If you want to talk to someone sitting at a distance, you can talk using mobile phone. But the methodology of acquiring that power, that siddhi, is different. In yogic siddhi, they do it by accessing to the higher universal powers. But in modern material science, they do it by manipulating the matter available on this planet. That's how they do. But by nature, they are both material. They are no different. Then pleasure they afford are also material and temporary, because material pleasure is temporary. Similarly, the pleasure derived by these siddhis, yoga siddhis, is also temporary. Then comes the third point, which is sense gratification. Sense gratification also cannot bring eternal happiness. Now we will understand. Sense gratification means we go watch a movie, we go watch a movie, we go we watch reels on YouTube, we watch videos on YouTube, we watch
We cannot hear your voice.
Relief, we feel some happiness, we get happiness. But the more, yes, Prabhuji, yes, Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yeah, we cannot hear your voice. Now it is coming back.
Okay, sorry. Now, can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So how much did you miss?
Just a little bit, don't worry.
So mystic perfection done?
2 lines.
Okay. Sense gratification, I was mentioning that we are trying to enjoy or we are trying to get happiness by going to movie, by going to cinema, by enjoying some Bollywood movie, by enjoying some Bollywood music, by sitting in an air conditioner where the air conditioner cooling actually gives us some happiness. But the point is, people who are looking for happiness only by these means, they forget that once death comes, that happiness is gone away. So they don't know, these materialistic people don't know that our real life is eternal. This happiness is only temporary. The moment death comes, this everything will be taken away from us. And devotees think otherwise. Devotees think that they have to actually take birth again. And if they try to conduct their present life properly, then they will actually get the ultimate happiness, the happiness of service to the lotus feet of the Lord. So, like that, we have now covered that happiness by devotional service is eternal, and happiness by other activities, other items is temporary. And that is where we discuss this slide: liberation, mystic perfection, and sense gratification, and these 3 bullet points. So, the next slide, what I have prepared is on the yoga siddhis, mystic perfection. So, the yoga siddhis. This slide I am not going to speak on elaborately. You can read it from the book. These are mention of different type of siddhis Prabhupada has mentioned and have dedicated one or half paragraph to each one of them. These are Anima Siddhi, Lagima Siddhi, Prapti Siddhi, Ishita Siddhi, Vashita Siddhi, Prakamya Siddhi, and Kama Vasayita Siddhi. So these are different siddhis. I have given 1 bullet points against each of them. You can read them in the book. Will sound interesting to them, but very nicely given in the book Nectar of Devotion by Srila Prabhupada. And then we will come to the next last slide of today's class. And the last slide is coming back to the previous slide. So we have already covered this bullet point. Now we are covering the second bullet point: includes and excels pleasure found in others. Includes and excels pleasure found in others. So when we do devotional service, we get some pleasure, and this pleasure overcome the pleasure of all other activities. So this is what we are going to discuss in this slide. The happiness of devotional service include all others. Like 100 rupee note already have 5 rupee note, already have 50 rupee note, and so on. So it includes and excels the pleasure found in other type of happiness. Okay, and here 2 examples are given by Prabhupada. Lord Shiva to Sati. So he is quoting from Tantra Shastra, where Lord Shiva is mentioning to Sati, a Krishna conscious person can very easily be awarded all perfections desired by the impersonalists and can enjoy happiness achieved by pure devotees. So here one reference is given from Tantra Shastra. Krishna conscious person can easily be awarded all perfections desired by the impersonalists. So the impersonalists means the yoga siddhis. So immediately he is given all perfection and can enjoy happiness achieved by pure devotees. Okay. Then the second statement is coming from Prahlad Maharaj, and this statement is coming from the book Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya. Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya. And Prahlad Maharaj is praying to Lord Narasimhadev in this book. And Prahlad Maharaj is saying, devotional service is so powerful that with it one can have all perfections of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So all the perfection that we get from dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, when we do devotional service, we achieve all that perfection that we are aspiring to get from dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So the methodology of Srila Rupa Goswami is mainly he's making a statement and he's quoting from scripture to support and back up this statement. So he's giving you Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman means, Shabda means scripture. So like that, dear devotees, what we have done in the class today is we have covered elaborately in detail Kleshagni. We have finished that part, the first quality of pure devotional service, and we have also covered the second quality of devotional service, Shubhada, which is giving all auspiciousness. There are 4 auspiciousness, benefits everyone, attracts everyone, benefits everyone, attracts everyone, and then bestows all good qualities and gives superior happiness and other items that we have covered in detail. So we will pick up our class from next Sunday from Moksha Laguta Krat, which I probably wanted to cover today but could not do so. We will finish this Moksha Laguta Krat and other balanced qualities of devotional service in our next class. So thank you very much. I hope you could follow the class. As I mentioned, it is full of definitions. It is very technical. And please let me know if you find any difficulty, any problem. This is the time to raise your concerns and ask some relevant questions. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dandavad.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very,
Dandavad.
very exhaustive class. Thank you very much. As usual, benefits a lot. I simply want to make 2 comments that about Siddhis. These are 8 Siddhis. And the name of the Siddhis itself, Anima, Laguma, and all this, this indicates what is that. And the 2 examples which are available in this, literature known to me, one is Hanuman in Hanuman Chalisa. Tulsidas Sahib, he was Harshidi Nonidhi ke data. Nonidhi we'll discuss sometime next because that's more complicated. So Harshidi is very easy. So this is, and 9th Guru of the Sikhism, Guru Tegh Bahadur. He was also Harshidi and Nonidhi he had. So these are the 2 living, demigods or whatever you can say, people. Just wanted to share with you and with my other satsangis.
Yes, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Actually it reminded me to make one more point that when we talk about siddhis, generally people of this modern age and time, they think this is something which is not possible. This is something which is too fantastic, which is too chamatkari. But for those people, I would like to request them that you can see the examples of these siddhis even in modern day life also. And just to, what you can do is you can explore one name in Google, and that name is one yogi by the name called Prahlad Jani. Jani is Jani, and Prahlad is Prahlalad. The normal spelling of Prahlad, Yogi Prahlad Jani. Now, what was special about this Prahlad Jani was he lived almost 70 plus years of his life, and I'm not exaggerating. You can check the facts from the Google search you might do. 70 years of his life without food and water.
Yeah, it's well known. It's well known.
It is very well known. It is very well known.
Yeah, I have read also. Yes.
Yeah, but for those who might think that these are something which is very too mystical, too fantastic, not possible. Maybe the Vedic literature is talking something fictitious, not possible today. They can go and search about Prahlad Jani. This person did not eat and drink even water for 70 good years of his life, and this case came into the knowledge of DRDO, the research organization, defense research organization, who kept Prahlad Jani in their hospital for complete 5 days, and without offering him any food and water, and his body was properly monitored by all those instruments that the medical people would do, and they could not find the reason and so on. So that is what you can check. Interesting. It is very interesting search you can do on Google. So
Yeah.
that was one point I would like to add there.
But
Yeah.
Guru Tegh Bahadur, it's not very old. It's
Mhm.
only 300 years history of 550 years. He was the ninth Guru, father of Guru, Govind Singh Ji. And this had all this, which he showed time to time.
Mhm.
And, and about Hanumanji, if we believe in Ramayana, so we have to
Mhm.
believe Hanumanji. And Hanumanji also had all this. He could make
Mhm.
himself so lagu, when
Right,
he went
right,
to
right.
see Sita,
Correct,
he
correct,
make
correct.
himself Vishalkaya while
Right,
he,
right, right.
destroyed.
Now you know.
He did
Now you
do.
know. Now you know.
Hanji.
So when we
So
read
this
Ramayana,
is,
sometimes we think that Hanumanji became smaller and then bigger. How is it possible? Because he had access to those siddhis.
that's right. These two, I knew the examples which are known to the,
Yes, yes.
us. I just
Okay.
wanted to share with your
Thank you,
permission.
Prabhu. Thank you. Okay, Jayamala Mataji is raising her hand. Mataji, please let me know what you want to know.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you
Prabhu.
so much for the very instructive and insightful class today.
Thank you.
My question is regarding Kleshagni and Shubhada.
Mhm.
You said that there is a connection between Kleshagni and Shubhada.
Mhm.
As per my understanding, Shubhada is it bestows the good qualities which even the demigods have, the same
Correct.
qualities, good qualities.
Correct.
And there is a connection, you said.
Uh-huh.
Is it to be understood that to the extent the
Uh-huh.
Kleshagni decreases, to
Uh-huh.
that extent we will manifest the good qualities?
Correct. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
you are right.
Prabhu, we might have quite a backlog of Kleshagnis.
Mhm.
So, it might not be possible in this lifetime
Mhm.
that all the Kleshagnis will be destroyed. So, in
Yeah.
the meantime, in
Mhm.
the meantime, uh, should we consciously cultivate good qualities?
Yes, both the things
Or,
need to be
or
done.
yeah,
Both the
yes, or
things need
should
to be
we,
done.
yeah.
If you read Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and I am I think it is mentioned in chapter number 12, where after I think verse number 12, because chapter number 12 in Bhagavad Gita has 20 verses, and from verse number 13 till 20, there is a mention of a long list of qualities by Lord Krishna. And if you read the commentaries by Prabhupada, he mentions that although when we do bhakti, we automatically develop these good qualities ourselves, but the devotee is also careful to develop these qualities consciously. Both the things are to be done. Both are needed. Conscious effort need to be done. Conscious effort means if we are getting a desire which is a sinful desire, probably for example, we are getting a desire for enjoyment. Uh, so we need to make some effort. We need to try to resist uh, uh, that desire of doing material enjoyment and so on. We need to do that from our part. Consciously, we need to make that effort. So, for example, we need to wake up early in the morning to do our chanting, do our rounds. So that effort has to be done. But when we do that effort, that all these good qualities also manifest within our heart automatically. So both are needed. And if you read those purports, I don't remember exactly the purport, but if you try to locate these things there, you will notice that Prabhupada is making those statements. So you are right. We need to do both.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'll go through the purport, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhuji,
Yes, Vidya Mataji.
in the previous class, you had mentioned how does name Bharat come from or Bharat come from? Can you
Bharat.
tell me again, please? Thank you.
Yes, Mataji. The Bharat word is composed of two words, Bha and Rat. Bharat. Rat means steeped. जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना कि ये रथ है, ये रथ means it is completely steeped into some emotion or in some mood, right? That is called rath. जैसे हर चीज रथ है यहाँ तो. So I hope you understand the meaning of word rath, right?
Right.
So then we have the word bha. Bha word comes from Bhaskar. Bhaskar means sun. So sun means light. So Bharat means the land which is full of light, which is steeped with light. Everywhere there is light. Light means knowledge. So Bharat means land of knowledge. And knowledge is not about material knowledge, not only material knowledge. Knowledge is specifically about this. You see this Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. So Bhakti, you can see when you read this book, you can understand how deep and how intelligent and how gifted and talented these saintly people like Rup Goswami, Jeeva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So where else in the world you find this science of devotional service, this science of spirituality, nowhere else in the world you will find. And this is actually the real meaning of Bharat. This land is full of light, of knowledge, of spiritual wisdom. That is why people from the West, whenever they are looking for, hankering for spiritual wisdom, they turn towards India. They come here. That's where they find this spiritual wisdom. And this is what we are trying, what our institution ISKCON is trying to unlock for the benefit of whole human society through these classes, through these courses, through these books. That is what the real Bharatiya should do. The one who calls himself Bharatiya, Indian, that the real Bharatiya should do is do Bharat, is spread this light of knowledge everywhere in the world. So that is the meaning of word Bharat. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Nice question. Okay. Any other doubt? You can also type your doubts in the chat box as the classes are going. In case you get some doubt, you don't want to interrupt, you can type that into the chat box as well, so that we can take those doubts. We don't miss upon your doubts. So that's the idea. But any other remark, any other question, or should we take rest? Yes. Yes, Ishwar Prabhuji. Yes.
Thank you very much for enlightening and continue to inspire.
Okay.
Everything is really good. Happy about it.
Yeah, one question I would like to ask everyone, is the class making sense? Are you enjoying it? Are you finding it too difficult, too technical, full of definitions? Any quick feedback? Is it making sense?
I think if we depend on your explanation, the difficult part, the Sanskrit part goes off almost completely, because you are doing it so well. So initially I thought it's a handicap, but right now that thing is not there, and hopefully it will be not there. So I think it's quite understandable.
Good to have that feedback. Okay, good. Oh, I hope other devotees also have a similar feedback. In case you don't, please, I would suggest that you kindly collect your doubts and give me a call or write to me. Okay. So thanks a lot. We will continue with our class from next Sunday. This class from next Sunday will be from my hometown in India, Muzaffarnagar. I'll be going there for 3 weeks. So, but we'll continue to do our classes. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nalini Mataji, welcome. I hope you found the class useful.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, good. Thank
Prabhuji,
you.
but I couldn't catch from where you started, but still I could follow. From which book, Prabhu? It's all from?
There are 4 books, and I have mentioned about these books in the previous class also.
Okay,
In
Prabhuji.
fact, the slides are also there, and I'm displaying them here. So you
Okay.
can refer to the. Maybe we can take that question offline. I can give you a call and explain few things,
Okay,
and
Prabhuji.
that's where you can pick it up. Okay, you can
I will
always.
also inform her, Prabhu. I will
Yeah,
also
okay.
help her.
Sure,
I will
sure.
also help her.
And you can also watch the recordings available on YouTube. So you can rewatch them, pause them, and like that you have all the facility to go deeper and understand the class. So that facility is also there.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay,
Okay,
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा
Hare
गुरु जी।
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu ji.
मैं एक रिक्वेस्ट थी मेरी,
बोलिए प्रभु जी.
वो मुजफ्फरनगर से जब आप करेंगे,
हाँ जी.
यार हमारे, सॉरी जी गुरु जी, हमारे दोस्त का भी दर्शन करा दिया करो भाई।
अच्छा अच्छा, ठीक है सर. ओके जी.
हाँ,
ओके
उनका
ओके.
भी दान तो है, उनका भी योगदान तो है ना।
हाँ, योगदान तो है. अब
हाँ, तो फिर तो थोड़ा सा,
मैं अवश्य
मैं
कराऊंगा.
तो चलो जानता हूँ, ईश्वर जानता है, विद्या जानती है, पर बाकी लोगों को भी दर्शन हो जाएंगे।
मैं बोलता हूँ जी उनको. आपके कहने से वो शायद आए. ओके, ठीक है.
रिक्वेस्ट है मेरी तो बस।
ठीक
तो
है.
मेरा
ओके.
शायद मेरी तरफ से बोलोगे तो शायद थोड़ा वेट और पड़ जाएगा।
देखते हैं
तो
जी.
हमारा उनका
प्रभु जी,
मेडिकल
मैं
से पहले का भी साथ है।
हाँ जी, बताइए.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, मैं कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि सुरेश is acting has acted as a beacon. He has brought us to this.
Yeah. So he will get the piety and good karma for that. But
Yes,
तो ईश्वर भाई, यू एग्री विथ माय रिक्वेस्ट?
sure, definitely. बल्कि
Okay,
I was
मैं
surprised
बोलता
कि
हूँ.
हमें गीता में छोड़ के आप कहाँ चले गए?
हाँ जी,
ओके जी. ओके जी, मैं बोलता हूँ उनको. हाँ जी, ठीक है सर. हरे कृष्णा.
थैंक यू जी, थैंक यू जी,
Thank you जी.
थैंक यू। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद.
आयुष्मान भव, शस्य भव, विजय भव, खुश रहो, फलो फलो, ज्ञान ऐसी वर्षा करते हो, आपके ऊपर लंबी उम्र दे, अच्छी सेहत दे,
अच्छा जी,
भवरानी
धन्यवाद.
को, बच्चों को बहुत सारा प्यार मेरी तरफ से।
धन्यवाद.
आयुष, हरे कृष्ण।